What's going on, everybody? This is Danny Minute back again for another playoff preview, and this is Class C1 and C2. What's going on, everybody? This is Danny Minute, Ryan Dettman, and Luke back again for another Class C1 playoff preview. This time we're in the semifinals. I've said this before. This is my favorite week of every year in football. I think that this is really one of the most exciting weeks. You got two teams that are going to make it to state football after this Friday, and I'm pretty excited. So let's kind of react to last week and some of the big surprises, because we do have a few big surprises, and then just kind of the results of our picks in our fantasy squad. So I'll let one of you guys start first. What was some of your biggest takeaways or surprises from this last Friday?
Go ahead, Luke.
I mean, the elephant in the room is Auburn beating Ashland Greenwood. That was pretty insane stuff. I didn't think anybody really had that in their picks. All of us kind of thought Ashland was gonna have a pretty big statement win, and then this was the matchup people were really gonna care about when Ashland was supposed to face up against Wahoo. But that was not the case. Auburn went out and played a really good game and upset Ashland.
Definitely. And to piggyback off of that, that's to me, that's definitely the number one. If I was to pick a number two, Central City's defense coming out to play. So I would say that was a shock to many when those guys came out and held Lakeview to really just one big play. It was a wet night. Guys were slipping. That, seemed to play a bit of a factor, but all kudos to Central City's defense. And you look at that one big pass play, you take that away, and they played a near perfect game.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I agree there with both of you guys. The defense, and before that week, I said that that game, the Lakeview and Central City game, would be a high scoring game, and that didn't really turn out. I think a little bit of the wet contributed to that, to a little bit the field, the playing surface. But I don't think it would have been a really high scoring game either way. So that was definitely surprising. Again, that Auburn and Ashland Greenwood game, really huge surprise there. Auburn is looking pretty gritty right now, and congratulations to them for that win. And yeah, any more reactions or surprises?
No, we all just kind of stuck our foot in our mouths a little bit when we said it was going to be a high scoring 50-point type of game. So that's pretty crazy.
It's all right. I don't know about you guys, but I'm used to being wrong at this point. That comes with the territory. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah. But we'll go over our weekly results this week. For pick's sake, I went 2-2, and you guys both went 3-1. Obviously, we all picked Ashland, and I picked Shattern to win, and that didn't go very well. But for the fantasy purposes, uh, I had a very bad week. I had 38 points collectively. Uh, Luke actually has the best week so far, and he has 103.24 points, and then Ryan is in second with 87.02. The top performer this week, fantasy wise, is Kip Brigham. Had a huge game against Boys Town. He had 55.6 points, so that was a really good pick by Ryan this week. And yeah, so that's kind of the results for last week. And now we head into the actual playoff preview, the semifinal week, my favorite year time of football. And we're going to start off with number one Sydney versus number five Central City. This is a huge game, and I'm going to let you guys start on this one.
Yeah, really big week. Touch a little bit on the history side of things. Both of these two teams are trying to make it to Lincoln for the first time in their school history. Central City's been in the semifinals once in 1978. Sydney's been there twice, 1993, and then last year when they lost to Wahoo. So they've got back to where they were last year, trying to take that a step further, make it to Lincoln for the first time. Sydney boasts one of the best defensive units in all of Class C1. They're allowing just 6.5 points per game. And then Central City, on the other hand, boasts one of the best offenses in C1, averaging 45.6 points per game. So this is a real strength versus strength matchup with Central City's offense going up against Sydney's defense. So it's gonna be really fun to watch those two units collide.
Definitely. And one thing that I think is a common theme as we look at both of these games, you have a kind of a clear front runner that's breezed past everybody in a sense, and a challenger who is battle tested. So in both of these games, I'm really looking forward to seeing how they play out, seeing what happens, with the challenger. And I think Central City, we've all talked about the offense. We've seen what their defense did last week, and same thing with Sydney. We've seen what that offense and defense combo can do throughout the season. And, I think for Central City, the key is going to be starting like they did against Lakeview, come out, get a win on defense right away, get a win on offense right away and score. And, it's going to be interesting with both of these matchups that we have this week to see what happens if they're close games. Not a lot of close games for the number one and number two team in the state, but both challengers have played some close games, had some battles. So we'll see if that experience can kind of be the difference maker and get a upset, at least as far as paper is concerned, calling it an upset.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on mostly everything, but I went and watched some film on both of these two teams. I watched a majority of that Central City and Lakeview game, and I kind of have some thoughts about it. So for Sydney, here's my notes for Sydney. We're going to start off with them. They're the number one, but I really like how they adjusted pretty well against that Shattering team. But when you do look at the game in a little bit deeper context, it was 8-8 in the third quarter, and then they really put it on the gas, and then they won pretty convincingly towards the end. Sydney, of course, Luke mentioned one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in Class C1. But we'll kind of go to their some type of scheme type stuff. Their offensive line, they have a lot of size, and I think that makes it a little bit tough when you head into those later quarters of the game, third and fourth. You're just moving those big guys, and they're putting weight on you and all that type of stuff. But offensively, they're a unit that kind of relies on Landon Riddle and Alex Doty. Those are their two main guys. They don't, I mean, they do get it to some other guys, but those two, they have to be accounted for. And Alex Doty runs a lot of straight up quarterback draws, so you kind of have to watch out for that. And they are also good through the air when they choose to do so. And yeah, so the Central City DBs have to be pretty disciplined when it comes to this game because they have some playmakers as well as they're going to run the ball pretty nice as well. So defensively, I Sydney is kind of hard to find film on. I looked on three different social medias and couldn't find too much, but I found some highlights, so I kind of took what I could from there. Defensively, they're a really good unit, as the box scores say as well. So, but they have not faced an offense like Central City's or close to that. So, Central City's coming off a game versus one of the best defenses in Lakeview school history, per the announcer in that game, and you can kind of confer that as well with their box scores as well. They're a really solid defense, but I think Sydney's might be a little better. But Central City cannot look over Sydney here. They've kind of fed off of the look over nature, overlook nature versus a lot of these teams of the past few years, and they are extremely comfortable as underdogs. So Central City absolutely has to show up in this game and in the right mindset, and they got to be ready to go. With that being said, I do like the defensive aggressiveness that Sydney DBs have. When I watched that Central City game, they didn't have a lot of success on those comeback routes or those curls, the short passes. And I really like how aggressive the DBs are in Sydney. They kind of pounce out of that. They explode off of that back pedal, and they don't allow for a lot of yards after catch or completions. You kind of see some of those highlights where they're getting out of the back pedal and they're making a play on the football, incompleted or interception. So I really like how they play there, but that kind of leaves some room open for double moves. So. And I'm not quite sure how much Central City runs double moves, but maybe we could see a big play off of that. But on Central City's time side, they played a team that did the best at containing them. They were held to just two offensive touchdowns. I love their play designs, especially that goal line end around sweep to the receiver. That was pretty fun to watch. You got Corbin Kaiser, the leading blocker, and he did a very good job on that play. I watched yeah, so I like that play a lot. But one of the biggest takeaways offensively for Central City is they need to establish running between the tackles. Most of their runs, if not like 90% of them, were outside the tackles, which they had a bit of success on. But against the Sydney team, you want to have a little bit of a rushing game in between the tackles, and kind of they have a little bit of a weakness that could be exploited, and that is when they send blitzing linebackers, they stunt a little bit, and maybe you can catch one of those blitzing linebackers or stunting defensive tackles, and you can get a pretty big game. So I think that running the ball between tackles definitely needs to be a priority. And yeah, so that's kind of what I have for this game. I was a little bit of a lot. I came and watched some film and put down some notes. So you guys have anything else on this one?
Yeah, I mean, just we've already touched on a lot of the storylines, but a lot of interesting things to watch. To me, this is the battle of the two best quarterbacks in C1 and Parker Zickman and Alex Doty. With all due respect to No Shoemaker, he's really good too. But I think you got the two best quarterbacks and then also the two best receivers in C1 and Landon Riddle and Wyatt Dent. So just some really interesting things to watch with this. Also, you have um, Kean Kaiser, middle linebacker for Sydney, who has a Division 1 offer from Iowa State. He's a real game wrecker in the middle of the field. So lots and lots of really good players in this matchup. So it's going to be really interesting to watch them.
Yeah, like you said, it's a
Definitely. And oh, go ahead.
you're good. You can go.
I was just gonna, echo what both of you said, and add to that. Looking at what Central City did against Lakeview. There's an old adage that it gets harder to throw this time of year in Nebraska, and maybe we've seen some of that. With the way Central City's offense performed against Lakeview, and all credit to Lakeview. That is a very well coached football team. They watched a lot of film, and there was times where they were putting guys where nobody else has all year. So they did a phenomenal job of coaching for that game. But I think that's going to be one of the big keys is can Central City get back to that same level of offensive success through the air? Can Zickman have a clean game and get Wyatt Dent the ball a little bit more? Again, Turner Hankey just continues to impress offensively, defensively. So he's definitely somebody to watch for. But I think that's one of my big question marks is how efficiently can Central City throw the ball, and I think that's going to be a big key. And then definitely agreeing with you on running between the tackles, looking at that, delayed draw that they run on occasion, getting guys the ball with some space and able to take advantage. I think those are the two big keys for Central City's offense to find success against a really talented defense. And, it's going to be really exciting to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, as you guys both touched up on the storylines are huge in this game. You guys said that last week Central City hasn't really got out of that quarterfinals round, and they did this time. And you can say for Sydney they haven't got out of the semifinal round. And I think the storylines just kind of run deep in this game, whether that's Sydney always being overlooked because being a team from way further than Omaha than a lot of other teams are, but they're overlooked a lot in Central City. They kind of just exploded out of nowhere, I believe. So they've kind of started this season as a little bit of an underdog and worked their way up. So I think both teams really have to just be in the right mindset. They cannot contribute any of their mindset to the outside media or social norms regarding both of these teams. You really just have to lock it in. You have to play football. And yeah, so I think that one of the biggest, I forgot to touch on this, but Sydney has an offensive identity, which you kind of see Lakeview kind of struggled a little bit, even though they're well coached, even though They have some playmakers. They just don't have that offensive identity, and Sydney's going to be comfortable. So you kind of have to lock it in. That's kind of contributes to the overlooking part. So as long as Central City brings their game, we're gonna get to the picks here. So I'll start on this one. I'll finish my sentence I just started. But as long as Central City can really lock it in and play well and not let the drive contribute to anything and just be in the zone and play like they have all season against some of the other teams, I think that they are going to win this football game. But I don't think that it's going to be easy.
I'm also gonna go with Central City in this one. I think big factor in this one that we haven't really touched on yet is Central City has a lot of guys that just play one side of the ball. So that could be a factor that plays in their favor later in the game because all of Sydney's guys play both ways. Almost every starter is a starter on both sides of the ball. So I think if Central City can wear them down a little bit in the run game, that'll help them a lot with just kind of seeing if they can catch them on their heels a little bit, maybe get their backups in the game who aren't quite as good. And I think that's going to be a really big advantage for Central City. And I think ultimately their offense is going to find a way to crack that Sydney defense.
This is tough for me. I found a new love for Sydney after picking against them in week one. And, I've been very apologetic to their fan base. And, that continues. I love the people of Sydney, Nebraska, but I cover this Bison team extensively, and one thing that we did here at RN Sports early in the season was dub them the Road Warriors, and they had a lengthy schedule of road games, and a lot of them were long road trips. So that Nebraska City game, that trip was not much fun driving out there to watch a blowout. But these guys are battle tested in some close games, but also they have the road experience. And I have to ride with the Road Warriors, and I'm picking Central City in this one.
Yeah, I think Central City has a really good time if they can just run their stuff. I think that they match up pretty well. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either way. So yeah, we'll move on to the second game. Who's going to meet Central City in the finals? So Wahoo, that's based on the picks, not assuming that they're going to win. Just to lay that out there. Anyways, but we're going to go over to Wahoo, then number three versus Auburn. I'll start on this one. Wahoo is just a really good football team. We've seen it the past 2 years. They have an awesome program. They have a good coach, and I really think that this team is one of the best in Nebraska. So I think that the dynamic of this Auburn offense versus the Wahoo defense is not a good matchup for Auburn. I think Wahoo excels at stopping the run, or those chew clock stopping the run type of teams. I think they excel at beating those football teams because they just match up across the board way better than most of those teams that do. But explosiveness is essential to beat Wahoo. That's one of the key things I have on here, and a one-dimensional team cannot beat them. I think that I'm going to stand by that, even if that one-dimensional team is really good at what they do, which is kind of how I view Auburn a little bit. Auburn needs to make it gritty, like they have been for the last few weeks. They've really showed up in these playoffs and played their tails off. So I really like how they have been playing as of late. They competed and beat Ashland Greenwood, who also gave Wahoo a good fight. So. What do you have, guys? What do you have on this one?
Yeah, I also watched a little bit of film on both of these teams. Nixon Liguori has just been putting that Auburn team on his back as of late. He has 312 rushing yards in their last two games combined. And as you said, touching on the one-dimensional piece, that's definitely true about Auburn. Liguori, their quarterback, Brant Glazia, and Camden Taylor have accounted for all of the touches except for four in the playoffs. So all but four of their touches have been to those three players. Uh, but it's interesting to see they do a lot of motions and stuff, and a lot of it that involves trying to get Brant Glazia lined up in different spots. So he lines up as a receiver sometimes, as a running back. They do some two back set stuff, where Camden Taylor will be in the backfield with him, or he'll just be in the backfield by himself. So they like to try to move him around, see if they can get any good matchups. But then ultimately, what they want to do is just run the ball with Nix and Ligori. So uh, all of that stuff, they want to maybe get the ball to Galizia, but Ligori is definitely their key focus. Uh, some of that relates also to what Wahoo likes to do offensively. It's a lot of crazy pre-snap motions and shifts, but ultimately it's pretty simple concepts where they just want to get the ball to Kit Brigham, who is the best player on their offense. So a lot of pre-snap stuff, trying to create different matchups, but ultimately it's just trying to get the ball to their best players. Uh,
Yeah.
I think the key to beating Wahoo is being able to hit a few deep shots. They like to roll down Kip Brigham uh, into the box a lot of times as a safety. So that opens them up to vulnerability in the pass game as well. So if you can hit a couple deep shots, that can really help you against Wahoo. But I don't think Auburn is really built to do that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they do have a little bit of a deep pass weakness. You kind of saw that against Boys Town a couple times. They did run a trick play where Whitaker was going to pass it, and he really just launched that football. I didn't know he had that in him, and he kind of overshot the receiver, but he definitely had that receiver open. But yeah, I agree with you there, scheme wise.
Yeah, and just you guys did a great job of covering that, but just kind of to piggyback and add a little bit to that, absolutely. I know you said gritty was one of the words you mentioned, and that's definitely the key for Auburn. You got to make it gritty. You got to come out with trick plays. You got to, you know, everything in the kitchen sink at this point, and
Yeah.
they're playing like the season's on the line because it is. They're playing like an underdog because they are, and yeah, it's a dangerous matchup for any team to walk into. So I think it could be an interesting game, could be a blowout. Either way, I'm excited for it.
Yeah, you mentioned trick plays, and I'm usually a guy that I like creative plays, but not quite trick plays. But I agree with you there because I think that Auburn, as you said, they need to throw the kitchen at them. They need to just do whatever, and whatever that is, I think that they could have some success with some trick plays, get guys going where they shouldn't be. And if they want to win the game, that's probably how they're gonna have to do it because I don't think they're just gonna have to line up and they're gonna run the ball. I don't think that's gonna work. So I think they need to get creative. They need to really use their heads in this one. So we'll get to the picks now. We'll start with Ryan and then Luke, and I'll finish it off.
Boo Newman, let's go Wahoo. Let's get Justin Anderson in the Wahoo Hall of Fame. That's about all I got to say. Wahoo's going to run away with it.
I agree with you that Wahoo is probably going to win this game. I don't think Auburn is the team to beat Wahoo. I'm not saying is invincible by any means, but Auburn is not the team that's built to beat Wahoo. What an incredible run they've had making it to the semifinals this year. I've been really impressed with them, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat Wahoo.
Yeah, I really like an underdog story. Most people do. But I think Wahoo is just too big of a force right now. I think this is their year. I think they've been deemed. I think most people deemed it their year for a while. I'm not going to say they're going to win the state championship this year, but that's definitely how the outside perceives it, especially as a person who played them last year. Uh, really, everyone that they've kind of played last year kind of sees them going really far, and they are far. They're in the semifinals against Auburn. So I'm going to take Wahoo on this one, and that will conclude our playoff preview for the semifinals. So we're going to go on to our annual fantasy football draft, but this time we're going to shorten it up a little bit. We're only going to take one running back and then one wide receiver just to make it easier because we got four teams playing. So the depth is kind of questionable a little bit. So since I am last place as of last week, I will be picking first, and I'm going to be taking Kip Brigham of Wahoo. He had a really good game for Ryan last week, and he had a good game for me in the first week. So we're going to take him here. And then the next pick in order is Luke. And then Ryan will have the wraparound.
Oh, let's see. I am going to take Wyatt Dent, receiver from Central City. I think he's got a tough matchup opposite of him as Landon Riddle's going to be guarding him all day, but I think he's due for a big game again, and I think this could be the game where he has his signature performance at the postseason.
All right. I'm gonna hit that game on both sides of this with both my picks, but I got to go with my man, easy peasy, Parker Zickman. So, kid that I just really enjoy to be around. I once gave him $20 to eat a lightning bug at a Legion baseball game. So it's fun to watch him grow up before my eyes. So I will take him, and then if I'm not mistaken, I do have a pick after this, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So I will go with Riddle. I really like it. I don't know. I think I may have had him on my team every week. So let's
I think
ride with it
so.
again.
Yeah, Riddle's been uh pretty awesome this round of playoffs. They really just relied on him through the air when they do choose to go through the air. But for my next two picks, at oh, I have a little bit of a
Should have been
problem
me.
here. But anyways, for my next pick, I have
When
a
so
quarterback. Oh,
didn't
okay.
Ryan just have the so you picked first, right?
Yeah,
And then me and then Ryan.
yeah.
So then it'll back to the two, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's you. Whoops, my fault.
Yeah,
My bad.
that's all
Okay,
right.
all right.
That's okay.
I'll cut that out. We're good. Whoops.
All right. Well, with my next pick, I'm gonna keep going strong with my Bison, and I'm gonna take Corbin Kais.
Yeah, that's another good pick. I didn't prepare a too awesome for this time around. I usually am good with that, but you know what? I'm gonna take tight end Turner Hankey for Central City just to get the tight end out of the way. I think that he brings a lot of value in the tight end position. And for my next pick, I'm going to take Nixon. No, I'm not going to take Nixon. I'm going to take Noah Bravorsky from Wahoo at my flex.
Yeah, I was really interested to watch him play. That was really impressive. Uh,
Very
really,
fast.
everybody focuses on Brigham, but Bordowski's a really good athlete. Just watching a little bit of film, I saw that. Um, let's see. I'm going to take. I'll take Nixon Liguori, quarterback from Auburn. What he does running the football is going to be really beneficial to me this week in fantasy.
And then back to Ryan. He has two picks. I believe that's his last two picks.
All right. I need a running back and a tight end, correct?
I believe so.
Yes, I do. All right. I got to show some love to Auburn. So we're going with yeah. I have two picks. So Brant Galizia there at Auburn is going to be my pick, and my final pick. Going to stick with my same pick from last week. I feel like another opportunity for him to come out and make some big plays. Somebody that potentially slept on a little bit, but Coulter Looters at Central City.
Yeah, yeah. Another chance for him to potentially get some targets. I think he had a play called back last week that he had a pretty big gain, and then there was a penalty on. Um,
Yeah, it broke
that
my heart.
brings me back up. I need a tight end and a flex. Um, as my tight end, I'm gonna take. Actually, I'm gonna go flex, and I'm gonna take Owen Gillum, running back of Sydney. Hoping the Bison will bottle him up, but nevertheless, it's my pick.
And for my wraparound pick, I'm gonna take Alex Doty from Sydney, and then my next pick, I'm gonna wrap my team off with a wide receiver, and that wide receiver is gonna be Lance Holly from Sydney.
Oh, right. For my tight end, I'm gonna go to Wahoo, and I'm gonna take Eli Shada.
All right. Does Ryan have one more pick? I can't even, or is that it?
He should have.
Okay. Does he have a wide receiver left? Do you?
Oh no, he
Yeah, I would have
picked Riddle.
taken. Yeah, I took Riddle.
Okay.
I have quarterback, running back,
I was thinking
receiver,
tight end.
tight end.
Oh, so
So
you have
flex,
everybody.
flex.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you have the last pick. Who are you taking?
In that case, been waiting for this moment. I'm gonna give him a chance to redeem himself. I'm picking Luke McCarg, baby.
His second Mr. Irrelevant of the year. All right. Well, that's going to conclude every preview and prediction as well as fantasy teams. Uh, Excited to watch this week of semifinals. I think it's going to produce a lot of huge moments, a lot of excitement, and good luck to you guys as you travel to Sydney. And just a reminder of where you guys can find these guys. You can find them on Instagram. I'll include their names in the title. So thank you guys for coming on, and thank you guys for tuning in and watching us preview here. And hopefully, everyone drives safe this weekend. And yeah, what's going on, everybody? This is Danny Made It back again with another playoff preview. This time, we're clumping together Class C1 and C2. This is the second part of the video. We're going over Class C2 football and the semifinals. This is my favorite week of every year. The semifinals. This is you get two teams that are going to make it to the biggest stage in football, in Nebraska, that is. You got two teams that are going to make it there. I love seeing those post game celebrations by the teams. I was lucky to take part in one of those in my senior year of football in Boone Central. So I'm excited to review these. I'm excited for these games. I like the matchups here. But we're just gonna jump right into this. Don't have a guest for this week. It just kind of ran things a little bit late on my end, which is kind of my fault. So I don't have quite enough time to go back and edit all of these. So yeah, so we're gonna start off here with the first matchup, which is Norfolk Catholic #1 versus number 13 Kearney Catholic. So two Catholic schools going at it with each other. That's a little bit of a storyline, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But they really don't have any deep history that the mainstream media really knows. Maybe they do on a school to school basis, but as far as the mainstream media and myself goes, I don't really know if there's any deeper storylines. I know that Kearney Catholic is really wanting to win. Got the chance to see that their players are fired up, so. I'm excited to see one of these teams go at it. Excited that Kearney Catholic is fired up and they've looked pretty decent as of pretty late. So uh, Norfolk Catholic obviously is a very, very good team. Um, and I think that they're going to be very hard to stop. And as you've seen throughout the season, they have been very hard to stop. Their defense is awesome, as well as their offense. Their offense. I'm a guy who likes a lot of diversity in the offense, which they do have. They have some of the most diverse players in uh, football, so I do like that. But as far as offensively, I don't think Norfolk Catholic is just crazy offensively, but they do have some guys. Um, it's more of this of a scheme thing with them. Uh, I They have a really winning coach, so you can't really say too much about it, um, because they win so much, so you can't really uh, complain about how they run their offense. But they do run a chew clock offense. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to take over drives. They're going to take a lot of time off the clock, and they are really just going to make that defense pay for it. So, and they most of the time when they do rely on that defense, they have been good. So. On Kearney Catholic side, I like how they performed as of late. They first round of playoffs, they beat Valentine 24-0, which before then, the week previous, they lost to Valentine by 6 points. So I really like how they rebounded against that Valentine team. So as far as Kearney Catholic goes, they're very hot as of late. They beat Wood River 30-8. So I really like that game, and they really restricted Bo Rorich, which is one of the best in the state at running the football. They held him to 4.0 yards per carry, and they held their quarterback or number five, Madden Braybick, their quarterback, yeah, to 5.6 yards per carry, and as a team, 4.4. So I really, really like how they performed against the run, and they kind of see a team that is going to run the ball a lot. Of course, Norfolk Catholic definitely has a lot more comfortability passing the football, so that's going to be a factor here. But whenever I go through the box scores here, I really, really like how Kearney Catholic's defense matches up. I think Kearney Catholic's defense is one of the more underrated units um, in Class C2, really. So I like how they play. Kearney Catholic is a relatively split offense, not crazy split. They do run the ball a bit more. I'd say maybe 70% more, something like that. Maybe a little bit less, or less than 70. But anyways, last game, Jacob Bosshammer went 6 for 11 passing the football. He had 123 yards passing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But on the ground, they didn't run the ball too crazy. Really, just 3.9 yards per carry, which isn't awesome. So I see the route for this Kearney Catholic team being a low scoring game, and that's kind of how they have to win this game, I believe. They have a defense I believe is underrated. So when you kind of look at that, Norfolk Catholic, you kind of look at Norfolk Catholic, if they go against a good defense, that they match up bad, but then they go into the week and they end up just running the ball, doing their thing. That's why they've won so much games. That's why uh, Coach Beller is one of the best coaches in the United States. So he's one of the most winning coaches in the United States for a reason. Uh, Obviously. He runs the ball, he chews the clock, he doesn't allow opposing offenses to explode, he doesn't allow them to really have too much of an impact. As you see, through the years, they have defensively, Norfolk Catholic just really limits the explosive plays because that kind of ties in with their offense a little bit. They're not going to want to allow some of the explosive plays. Where some teams you see, okay, you could beat us deep. I'm gonna test you to beat us deep, but you're not gonna run the ball on us really. So, and that's how you kind of see some teams play their games. But Norfolk Catholic really just has an overall great defensive unit. I think their DBs are some of the best in Nebraska. I think they are the best unit in C2. Of course, I think they're the best unit easily, actually. So, DB wise, I think that they have a little bit of weaknesses on their defense, which can be exploited a little bit. I like Boss Hammer in this one a lot, so I think he can really get going if against this Norfolk Catholic defense if they really get going. So I am gonna move to the picks here. I am gonna take Norfolk Catholic. I think that they're gonna move on here. I think that Coach Beller is just really gonna allow them to just keep going and how they really have been for so long now. So. Kearney Catholic had an awesome run to end the year. I'm very surprised on how they did. I had them as first round exits, so surprised me a lot here. But we're gonna move over to the next game, which is number two Bishop Newman versus number three Battle Creek. Um, I'm gonna grab some water here. Anyways, number two, Bishop Newman versus number three, Battle Creek. This is how I see a Class C, C2. Before this week, I have the top four teams, which is the first tier of football teams I have. So this top four is the clear best, I believe, in Class C2, which that consists of Norfolk Catholic, Bishop Newman, Battle Creek, and Hardington Cedar Catholic. Those were the big four for me, and maybe Boone Central was on that edge, but they really just didn't clean it up really uh, against Raymond Central. But I think Boone Central ended that as a class or a second tier team. But the Big Four is the Big Four, so maybe you could add Oakland Craig in there as well. So they kind of played within that Big Four, Big Five as well. So the point is that two of my top tier teams are going at it, and it's unfortunate that Bishop Newman or for Cedar Catholic that they had to play Bishop Newman. I think that the dynamic of the Big Four in the finals could have been really fun, but Kearney Catholic really owned their way and uh, really earned it to get here. So, anyways, let's talk about this game and how it's going to go. I've got the chance to watch both of these teams in person. I've watched some Bishop Newman film and I've watched some Battle Creek film. I know quite a bit about these teams. Maybe not as much as some guys do, but I've watched plenty of film to really get the gist of these teams. Um, both of these teams are teams that are going to run the football, and that's their identity as an offensive unit, and they play sound defense. So I think that's kind of where these two teams clash in terms of scheme. I don't think that it's really anything crazy. I think it's a typical Class C2 football matchup. I think that as far as scheme goes, this isn't super interesting as a scheme battle, but you have some interesting players in the scheme. So I think that's where kind of these matchups get a little fun as far as the games go. I don't think, of course, I just said that these schemes aren't interesting, but the players are. I like how the players play the football games. Let's start off with some of the notable players in this one to explain my interesting personnel, but not scheme. So for Bishop Newman, as you guys all know, Connor Booth. This guy is awesome. This guy is one of the best running backs in the state. But you can't mention Connor Booth without mentioning that offensive front. Last week, I said that that offensive coach needs a pay raise or a job raise. This guy is really awesome. He has that offensive line working as the best unit in football, I believe. I think that is the best offensive line unit, maybe in Class C or C1. I think that they are just really, really good. They have some size. They're huge players. And they also have great technique. They work with their doubles very, very well. They get up to the secondary, not the secondary, the second level very nicely against those linebackers. So I think that they match up very well against that Battle Creek team. I think that maybe their linebackers aren't as strong as some positions. Uh, but another key story on this game is the front battle. Two of the best fronts, I think. I think that's really just undoubtedly these are the two best fronts in Class C2 football. Offensive line, defensive line, you can really say that. And I think that the best defensive line is Battle Creek. The best offensive line is Bishop Newman. So I think that is going to be really fun to watch on the line of scrimmage. I think this game is less about the skill players um, as the offensive lines and defensive lines. So I think that when you look at the fronts for these teams, I think that Bishop Newman has a easily a better offensive line than Battle Creek has offensive line, but I think Battle Creek maybe edges out Bishop Newman a little more defensively. So I like the I think that Battle Creek's defensive line maybe is a little more athletic and against that Bishop Newman defensive line, but they still are both good units and they have the guys, they have the personnel to really explode and take over games. So let's talk about some of the scheme matchups in this game. As I said, the offensive line. Let's kind of move over to some of the skill positions. I watched Norfolk Catholic and Battle Creek square off a couple weeks ago, and I really liked how the DBs played in as for Battle Creek in that game. They're really disciplined. They really didn't allow any explosive plays, really outside of a couple go balls that were contested catches. So you can't really uh, you can count those, of course. The DBs are very disciplined. They're going to play sticky coverage, and they didn't allow anyone to open free in that back half of the defense. So I really like this game. So okay, this is a little rough, but thoughts are kind of rolling through my head right now. I'm not going off of notes. I'm just kind of talking. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit all over the place here. But anyways. As far as the skill positions for Bishop Newman, we talked about Battle Creek. Bishop Newman, they really aren't anything too crazy defensively skill positions, but they have some guys that can really play, and they really haven't allowed teams to really take over. As you've seen, they are undefeated outside of Norfolk Catholic game. So obviously they're doing stuff right. So I haven't watched too much film, so I can't really speak. So maybe I kind of retract my statement that they aren't anything too special because I don't really know defensively. I haven't watched a lot of them defensively, but a lot of offense, I can tell you that. And how I think this is going to go as far as the game and the scheme battles, not the scheme battles, but the personnel battles, because the scheme battles don't really matter in this game. It's the personnel. So I think Bishop Newman has an advantage when it comes to offensive line versus defensive line, although Battle Creek's defensive line is really, really good. They're strong, athletic, and they are one of the best units in football. So um, I do think that they do have an edge here. They have a little bit of youth on that Battle Creek off defensive line, um, but they do have a couple guys that are older, so that can really just give you an older presence and older mindset. So I think that this Bishop Newman team is going to excel versus really anybody running the football because that's just what they do and they do it extremely well. So I think that Bishop Newman should win this football game. I think that they play a sound enough defense where they can stop the Battle Creek offense enough to where their offense is just too hard to stop because I think this could be a low scoring game, but you kind of have Connor Booth who has 49 or 45 touchdowns, something crazy like that. He has just so many more touchdowns than the second place leader in Class C2. So, um, I know I'm kind of dragging it now at this point, but I do have Bishop Newman in this one. I think that they're going to run the ball very effectively, and I wouldn't be surprised if this really goes down to the wire, and maybe even a little bit of overtime could happen. So, I'm excited. I'll tune in this game, of course. I'm excited to see these games, and yeah. So final pick, Bishop Newman. But I'm excited to go through these games. I'm excited to watch these games as much as I can. I'm going to be sitting there in my basement, so watching some high school football and Mike Tyson. So I'm excited to watch these games. Um, my final predictions: who's going to end up in Lincoln after this Friday? I have Norfolk Catholic and I have Bishop Newman, a rematch of one of the best games this season and the two best teams, I believe. So, yeah, that's going to conclude for my Class C2 preview. Thank you guys for everyone for tuning in. It's been a pleasure so far. I'm excited to come back here next week and preview these state championship games. So I'll see you guys later, and thanks for tuning in.